Hello, everyone. It's Gabriel Lee, your host for Random Select. This week, I'm joined by Arakara guitarists Vince Van Berkom and Zach Donovan. They're really intelligent people. They're really professional. They really try and make welcoming thrash metal for everyone to listen to. They're really cool dudes. You should check out their music. On this episode, we just talk about their philosophy on putting their music out and being performers, as well as things regarding just the creative process for their music. So I hope you enjoy this podcast. Remember, the donate button is on the right side of my channel, and go check out Arakara's works in the links below. See you in the podcast. Say the band name again. How do you?
Ara.
Ara?
Kara.
Kara, okay.
Yeah.
For some reason, I always think there's an I in it, and that's what trips me up about it.
There used to be an I in it, but we changed it because the logo looked better with an A in it.
Okay, so maybe I have seen it with an I in it.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
probably...
It originally did have an I. It was Arikara.
Yeah, see, that's how I was thinking it was spelled, and that's why I was
Well,
like, oh.
originally, like that was the name that we came up with because it was actually an Indian tribe and really liked how it sounded, and then
Well,
which actually means horns in that language, but we changed it because it's easier for people to pronounce now and it looks cooler as far as the logo is concerned. So.
yeah, like just in terms of like the typography, and you just because I had it recording before this started. Do you just want to count this as the podcast? You just want to go?
What's up?
I said because of like in the typography, it made the logo look better. But the question that I asked after that is, since I had it already recording before we even started the call, do you just wanted this to go as the podcast? Because we can do it like that.
Yeah, whatever you want, man.
Yeah, okay.
It's
So,
good. It's good to hear from you.
yeah. So it was like a typography issue, like with just the I looked weird with how the logo was, or because you have your own font, right, for it, I think.
Yeah, yeah. It's an original design by this artist that we got from I can't remember where he's from, but our manager hooked us up with him and he did a really good job with the logo. So we just to us it just looked better because it's what do you call those things where it's like this the same way spelled forward as it is backwards?
What is that?
Is it a palindrome?
Yeah, palindrome.
Yeah. So we just think it definitely looks cooler.
Yeah, it's a palindrome.
So
Yeah, that makes sense. Um, so you being a Native American and it being a Native American name, is there like because some metal bands do like the whole epic stories and they usually take like a Viking story. Do you guys do have like a song where it's a Native American warrior doing some shit?
yeah. So the album that we're working on right now, it's called we decided to call it Burial Ground, which is actually
One of our songs.
yeah eponymous to one of our songs, which is probably going to be our single, which is called Burial Ground. And the chorus from that song is there is a burial ground for me,
Yeah.
buried beneath wounded knee. And
Okay.
so the whole that song right there is all like about Indians and Native Americans. It's actually it does have a concept to it. It's actually about a this Indian warrior who tries to resurrect his tribe, and his tribe comes back as a bunch of zombies.
And
So
then does he fight them, or do they fight like zombie General Custer or something?
no, they he resurrects them, and basically he's just trying to take his
His
get his
land back. Okay.
yeah.
All right, that makes sense. No, I mean I get it. I get it. So is that the first time that like Native American anything's come into play, or do you take like some of the rhythms or stuff like that into the music?
um, it's. I mean, there are bits and pieces where you know where I was kind of thinking about a war dance in some way when I was writing the riff out, like especially towards the breakdowns or the bridge sections. But other than that, it's pretty much it. And then we do use a lot of um, native imagery. Um, just because I think there's not a whole lot of bands that really are sold on that yet. So we're trying to, I guess, make an enterprise in that kind of imagery, which I really haven't seen a whole lot of in heavy metal.
Yeah, well, there's like the Ed Hardy styled shirts that kind of have like. I'm serious though. Like they do have like a little bit, but I mean nothing like is definitely taking that as like the main focus. They sometimes incorporate the imagery, but I mean it's very much like appropriated. It isn't in any way like
Yeah, we're more trying to incorporate, like, I guess, your typical heavy metal satanic imagery and with along with the Indian stuff. So we're trying to make it, I guess, a little more home to the genre.
yeah.
So
No, that makes sense. Have you seen the I think MTV published it. They might have just funded it or hosted it, but the MTV documentary on like Native American musicians
actually, no, I haven't.
was pretty interesting. I think it's called like Revolution or something like that, or Revo, and there's a lot of young, probably only a couple years older than us, like in their mid 20s aged musicians, and they started their own festival out in the Midwest and stuff, and they just play all kinds of different music. But the big thing about it is that it like um, definitely teaches about the culture in like a very mindful way, because obviously with them being Native American, they're gonna want to represent it in the best way that they can, and then they just show like an appreciation for our Native American artists who do anything. Like they have all of the vendors and stuff are Native Americans and stuff like that, to just like show how the modern culture of Native Americans like is still this really artistic and driving like force. And it's a pretty cool documentary. It's really interesting. And it's just funny to see like them performing all kinds of different genres. There's like a rapper, and I think there was a Rastafarian one and stuff. It's funny. But it's pretty good. And it does show like a lot of stuff just in how Native Americans in the modern age like have this artistic impact that gets overlooked or just doesn't get the recognition for whatever reason.
Yeah, honestly, in popular culture, I don't think there's been a whole lot of relevant native actors, actresses, or even musicians in the pop culture realm. So I think any chance that anybody gets to kind of bring that into light is very important. And it's not to say someone should be restricted. It's like take comedians out there. There's comedians out there who are known as Latino comedians, and I think that shouldn't be the case at all.
Yeah, well, the Latino comedians thing is a little weird because Carlos Mencia like intentionally branded himself like that, and he was
Yeah.
just the most like I mean, and he's very hacky about the way he does comedy, anyways. Like he's not the greatest comedian in the world, and he steals a lot of jokes from other people, uh, especially like lower level Latino comedians, um, and uses it like for his own thing, which is a big no in comedy, especially now with like the internet and everyone can see that you're fucking stealing someone else's joke. Um, but yeah, he kind of messed the game up for like other Latino
Yeah.
comedians. Like the Gabriel Iglesias has to brand himself like a Latino just to get recognition, because the biggest Latino comedian so made that like his thing. And I guess George Lopez before him didn't really, but George Lopez was a lot more like controlled. Like he'd be like the Leno of like his sort of culture. But yeah, it's really strange that we don't see a whole lot of Native American uh, artists in really any medium. Because I wasn't even thinking about film, but I can't think of one off the top of my head that's like
Well,
a
I mean,
Native American actor.
there's like one, but I mean, I cannot. I don't even know his name. You know,
Who is
so
it?
I don't know. I mean,
Do you know what he played?
unless you include that guy from Kickin' Wing from Joe Dirt.
I don't know if that counts. I don't know if that counts.
So,
That
but our music, man, it's other than that song, we have, our other songs, man, are typical towards heavy metal. We talk about um, a lot of it's social reflection, I guess, and we talk about religion and politics and war. So
yeah. Why does metal so focus on those? Like, why is it one of those genres when you think about it is definitely like a commentary one?
well, in the beginning, um, when heavy metal was being, I guess, inherently created, it was meant to kind of have fun scaring people in some sort of way. It really it was like the horror genre of music, if you will, compared to like films.
Like the shock value and stuff.
Yeah, yeah. So I think that's what people wanted to do is they wanted to start scaring people with their music, and I think eventually it evolved into looking at things today in our culture. Any music genre is going to reflect on things in our culture that are relevant today.
Yeah.
But I think that metal, in general, just typically picks up the darker reflections of society, where pop may take up the lighter reflections of society.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that. Because when you're like just the sound of metal is really coming from like those darker emotions. It's like a lot more primal of a feel than other genres, and then like the distortion and stuff. It's kind of like the heightened fight or flight uh, going on for the feel. Speaking of that, knowing that metal shows tend to get crazy, what's the craziest thing that's happened at a show? Has anyone like gotten in a real bar brawl or anything?
Like at one of our shows or any
Yeah.
show?
No, at
Yeah,
your shows. Yeah.
at one of my shows. Okay.
One guy almost died at one of the shows.
Did he like do the stage dive and face plant it or what?
No, I think he had like some type of stroke or something. Like his heart just stopped. It was like we were playing one of our last songs. We had to stop because this dude needed medical attention. Like, he had like some type of seizure / heart attack. I don't remember which was which, but he was unconscious. I guess he wasn't breathing, and we were there for like 10 minutes. Like, what's going on? Is the ambulance coming and stuff like that? But eventually he ended up being okay, and the ambulance took him and took good care of him. But that was, I was freaking out. Like, oh my god!
Yeah, that is not what I was expecting at all. That's pretty crazy. Um,
We were finishing up a song, man. And all of a sudden, I'm like behind me, and this dude just drops to the floor, and I was scared that he hit his head on the concrete or something.
Yeah, I thought it was like a mosh pit incident, but he just dropped.
Yeah. So we stopped playing and got off the stage for a little bit and waited till the guy, till he was taken care of, and
yeah.
luckily we had enough time to get up there and finish our set. So.
Oh, nice. That's cool that it worked out like that, and that he lived, especially that he lived. Probably. Yeah. How early on was that for you guys that happened?
I think this was a couple weeks ago.
A few weeks ago.
Oh, okay, so it was pretty recent. Like,
Yeah.
what if that had happened first ever performance though?
If they happened at like my first performance,
Yeah.
I really don't know. It might have either scared us or motivated us, one of the two.
Yeah.
The way we kind of look at it now is, we're glad he's okay and everything, but I guess he was really getting into it.
Do you guys have the light show? Did you potentially cause like a seizure?
I don't think it was a seizure because there definitely wasn't any strobes going on.
No, that wasn't like flashing lights or
Oh,
anything.
okay.
I just think the music was too extreme for him or something. I don't know.
It turns out he's actually a friend that was there with
Producer.
our producer Andrew,
Mm-hmm.
um, who was hanging out and he told us that he didn't even have a whole lot to drink that night. He had like one beer and you know, so
And just
but it's just weird. I mean, maybe he got overheated or something, moshing
yeah,
around or whatever.
yeah, that definitely does happen. It can just get really cooking in like a venue,
Yeah.
especially down in Florida. Because are you guys like going through a heat wave right now? Yeah, yeah, that would be awful. So I talked to projections like earlier on the podcast, and they were
Yeah.
talking about how like different their influences are. Are you guys more cohesive on the influences like to your playing style or whatever? I know you, Vince, have like some out there influences, like you dig flamenco guitar and classical guitar and stuff like that. But overall, as the band, are you pretty much pulling from the same like source of inspiration, or are you a little bit varied?
We consider ourselves to be. I mean, we're labeled as thrash metal, but we as a general kind of thing, we kind of just consider ourselves heavy metal. I mean, but our influences as a band are stuff, like especially coming from perspective for me, like when I write our music and stuff. I have there's a lot of influence from bands like Judas Priest and Slayer and like Exodus, But as a
Yeah.
guitarist, my influences are completely different. Like as a guitarist, I'm more influenced by like more of the shred guitarists from like the '80s, like Yngwie Malmsteen and like Jason Becker and those kind of guys.
Yeah.
So, so Zach, what kind of things do you?
For me, like again, we're a thrash metal band, and that's we have like Slayer and stuff like that. We always love those guys, but like when it comes to my influences, it's I guess a little different. Like yeah, Jason Becker's a good one, and Inve. Like my probably top five are probably gonna be like Randy Rhoads, Eddie Van Halen, Dimebag,
Yeah.
Jakey Lee, Zach Wild, Tony Iommi. I named over five, but yeah,
Yeah,
that's
I get the idea. Um, so how did Arakara, is that right? Did I fuck that
yeah.
up?
Yeah.
Okay. How did it start? How did it come to? Because you moved down to Orlando, and then like the next thing I know, you had the band. Was it already around and you joined, or is it?
Uh, that
Well,
was something I kind of wanted to put. I wanted to put a band together, and Vince actually gave me a call because he saw one of my ads on Sam Ash that I was trying to start something.
Yeah.
And we pretty much just hit it from there. A couple months we've been just writing guitars. And then once our original drummer Nate came around September, October, around there, we started writing for drums. And
Uh-huh.
then right around Thanksgiving break, that's when we had a bass player, and we actually had five members before we went to a four piece.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
like
at one point, were you just like performing as a two piece, or were you just like hashing out ideas at that
we
point?
were, we were just hashing ideas
It
at
was
that point.
okay. Yeah. At that point already, did you know sort of where you were going? Like, did you have kind of like a
Yeah,
vision already of what Arakara would be?
a little bit. I wanted to go to, I wanted to do something like metal related and like heavier stuff. And
Yeah.
You know, Vince kind of just made it, just put a little spice to it, in a way.
I think what's cool about us, as far as Zach and I writing the music, is Zach writes more of like definitely more heavier riffs, and mine are a little more, I guess, a little more honed to the genre, so to speak.
Okay.
Um, but I mean, definitely from the start, our philosophy was we wanted to play fast, aggressive music, and that's what we do.
Yeah.
So,
So, like in the experience of playing that fast aggressive music, is it really like cathartic for you, or is it like something that you detach yourself from in your day to day life, or how how is the experience when you're like going balls to wall performing?
well, for for me, it's I mean, you know me, and people who know me know that I'm not an aggressive person. But how can it be that I'm attracted to this aggressive music? And I think the reason being is because um, when I perform that kind of music, and even when you listen to it, I think it relieves a lot of stress and tension. And it, and like when I'm performing, it gives me a huge, I guess, gratification when I get to perform my music for people. And I actually think there was a recent study published that says that people who listen to metal music are typically less aggressive.
Yeah, that's true. I saw that.
Okay, so like in this article, it's saying that like it is like a release thing for
Yeah.
people. Okay, yeah, that's what I figured um, was going on. Like that was just always how I assumed it worked out. I know that there are people who perform metal who are definitely like aggressive all the time, and
Yeah. I,
I don't know if they tone it down for their metal, like if when they're in their metal persona they're technically someone less aggressive than their normal selves, or if it's just the same person the entire time. But yeah, I know a lot of people in like the metal genre are really like well spoken, almost like calm people, and in interviews sometimes don't, other than the fact that they're like a rock star, have like the huge presence of someone that's like trying to like put their ego forward and be
yeah.
really aggressive in that situation. So you guys, I heard about the drummer missing situation. You guys already have a new drummer?
Oh
Like,
yeah.
yeah,
So we well, he's a back up for a little bit. So our first bass player, David, um,
You was the one who ditched out and ran.
yeah, he basically just took off, man, and took a lot of our gear. So we were in and out of bass players for a while, looking for somebody more stable.
yeah,
So we came across. I mean, our good friend Orson, he actually filled in for bass for a while, and then um, while we had the old drummer Nate. So bass for a long time, and it was just me, Zach, and Nate, three piece, playing our shows until we found somebody more stable. And um, one of the promoters around here, Clint, he actually hooked us up with this bass player and vocalist named Brandon Bissett, and
yeah.
he's been really good, man. And so we've just kept him, and then eventually after we recorded drums, Nate had to leave, so we were looking for a drummer for a while. And let me tell you, man, drummers were really hard to find at the time down
Yeah.
here.
Well,
Uh,
drummers aren't they always kind of the hard one to find just because of how expensive like a set is and the space it like takes up?
I it just depends, man.
It depends. The drummers, I feel like it's either the drummer or the singer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Because there might be like tons of singers out there and everything, but it's just one of those things. It's like everybody has a different voice. Not one person's gonna sound like this guy. Like there might
Yeah.
be somebody with like a James Hetfield influence or a Tom Araya influence or something like that, or
Yeah.
David Lee or something. But it's one of those things. It's like when we first started this band, I was kind of really picky on like who's gonna be singing and stuff like that. And I remember auditioning tons of singers, and it's like, nope, 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 maybe, no, no, damn it. Yeah,
Yeah. And the other thing with singing, I think, is like the American Idol syndrome. Like everyone thinks they can sing on some level, and they'll just go out there and try out for it, and
yeah.
you don't know.
Uh,
Uh,
unfor- Unfortunately for us, I was doing vocals for a while, and I'm not a vocalist by any means, but we had no other choice. I mean,
you had to get the vocal part in there, and
yeah.
yeah. Well, I understand that. I know the story about David. I didn't realize that he was a member of the band. Would you mind talking about that, or
Yeah.
yeah, sure.
He was he was basically my roommate, man, and he played in the band, and everything's really going really well, man, and he just did what he did.
yeah, he basically like ran off with everything you guys had in the apartment, more or less, and like a lot of the band equipment.
And
So
mainly just the guitar stuff, my stuff, and
yeah,
a couple other things. So, but all is well. You know, I forgave him a long time ago in my heart.
yeah,
Um, but it's not to say that we didn't go through a lot of struggles, especially with equipment and having shows lined up and stuff.
And you just more or less had to cancel them, or were you able to borrow equipment from people?
Well, for me, man, I was using Zach lent me some amplification equipment, and then Orson, the bass player at the time, to fill in. He lent me some of his guitars, and we just made it work, man. So I remember we canceled one show,
Oh, so
and
you did like really good for like being in a bad situation.
Yeah, we didn't want to you know, it was a really tough time for us. We didn't want to freak out. Then we already were freaking out, but we didn't want to, draw the line too much. So we kind of just took everything calm. We're like, all right, let's think. Let's see what we can do. Like instead of canceling everything, let's see if we can do this
Yeah,
instead.
make it work. Yeah, I
Make it
understand.
work. We couldn't do it for the one show we canceled, so we just canceled that one show and just continued.
Continued on. Yeah, that's a really like good way to like have handled that situation. Like really amazing on your guys' part that you were able to pull it off. So there wasn't really any indication beforehand that that was going to go down like that. Like in retrospect, it wasn't like this guy was obviously like a sociopath or anything like that.
well, I don't know about a sociopath, but in retrospect, there were probably a lot of signs that I should have picked up on, and I didn't because I was trying to give someone the benefit of the doubt, and he was really easy to get along with, man. So, anyways, that's at the time, we did have a lot of support from the people in our scene that were really looking out for us,
Yeah.
and we were really grateful to have those people, and you know, that was just one more motivation to keep going. And I remember telling Zach and Nate at the time, if this stops us, I mean, we just couldn't let it stop us. It made us stronger.
Yeah. So for you guys, would you say it's more than just like a really engaged hobby? Would you say that it's like a passion and something that you want to pursue for like as long as you possibly can, or is it kind of just the hobbyist, like really dedicated to the hobby, but still just at some level just the hobby?
Right now, at least for right now, because I do want to hope someday in the future it will take off. But right now, since Vince is going through medical school and
Soon,
soon,
hopefully.
hopefully soon, I think right now it's not like a career, but at the same time, it's not a hobby. It's kind of like right in between. It's a business, but we're definitely working our way up there.
Yeah, so you're definitely like going to make the moves that you think would best put you in the position where you could make it into like a career like thing. Or even if it doesn't ever come across on that level, it's something that you are like so enthused and in love with as like an expression of yourself that it's like this is the artistic thing that I definitely want to put my time towards and just really fully engage in.
For for Zach, it's definitely more of a career option for him, and for me, it's I would say that it's more than a hobby, just because I don't like to half-ass my passions, whether it's music or going through school. And for me, it's important to have it in my life because it gives me something to look forward to on the weekends. It gives me something that no one can take away from me, and it gives me some release and some remembrance that I'm a human being, and I have things that I want to do too. But I'm trying to put Arakara in the best possible position, um, so it can carry on when I can't anymore.
Yeah.
And for me to not want to become a physician anymore and not pursue medical school, there would have to be some pretty big offers coming our way.
Yeah, like you're talking like for you personally to really put aside the like physician dream, it would have to be like a record label deal, and
It, it'd have to be a serious one, and it'd have to be a really um, I mean, honestly, I hate to equate it to money because I'm not wanting to be a physician for the money. I want to do it to save lives and help people have better lives.
yeah, but you have like a limited amount of time on this Earth, and
Right.
you have to be able to survive and stuff to continue pursuing either of those ideas. Like, I mean, to be a physician, it takes a lot of money. To be a musician, it takes a lot of money and it takes a lot of time. And at some point, you're going to run out of like the amount of time that you have to dedicate to stuff. And one of them's going to take a lot of time, and one of them's going to take a lot of time, and you need like, I guess, what would house you and let you continue pursuing what you're passionate about and like
Exactly.
love. Yeah.
And I think that it's interesting too, man, because I mean I've seen it. I've researched it myself just to kind of maybe think about how I want to shape the rest of my life. But there are medical doctors who to this day play in heavy metal bands and who even act.
There's doctors that are actors?
Hmm?
Like
Yeah,
super famous ones, or just doctors that happen to act?
the guy from um what's his name? Leslie Chan, right? From the Hangover movies. He's a
Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, okay, that is weird. I didn't think about that.
he's
I knew there were musicians like who had basically full-time careers like at that level. I didn't know there were actors just because acting I feel like takes even more time just because you are constantly having to resell yourself once like the gig's up. Like you have to
yeah.
go back through the process. Even if you're like a really high demand person, they make you do the auditions because they just don't know. See, I told you need water.
My water.
Yeah, you. Wait, what was the front of it?
It's the Win Dixie, not a sponsor. Uh,
Not a sponsor
Spring
thing.
water. Yeah, not a sponsor. Spring water.
Not a sponsor, spring water. Yeah. It's so weird not having Winn Dixies and Publixes. Like
What is
the
that like?
what?
What is that like?
I mean, we still have things that are like them. We our like equivalent of a Publix, I guess, is a Hagen's, and then our Winn Dixie is a Safeway. And I think Safeways are kind of more spread around the country. I think those actually appear in a lot of places. But there's always going to be like the alternative thing. Like there's going to be the same essential thing. They have a lot more locally sourced produce out here than we did in Florida, but I think that's just because Florida doesn't grow a whole lot of stuff. Like I mean, it does, but they're having the orange like syphilis outbreak or whatever it is that's killing the oranges every seven. Like the specifics of the disease are so weird. It kills all of the oranges that are infected with it only once every 7 years, and they just all die. And so you don't even know if your oranges are infected with it for almost a decade. But other than that, I don't know what Florida grows. I'm sure we grew other stuff. I'm sure they grow peanuts and stuff down there. But I don't know. I don't remember there being a whole lot of local produce at either Publix or Winn-Dixie.
What's the weather like where you're at, Gabe?
Fucked up. I guess the weather now is, and this is what I heard on NPR, and it's really like concerning to think about. Not actually that concerning because other people and like things I've read have said that obviously weather just changes. Like in areas like Saudi Arabia used to be like a verdant jungle or whatever. Now it's a desert. It just is the natural cycle. But the reason that they formed Los Angeles, and this is according to the NPR thing, was because that was like the most stable weather at the time for like filming movies and stuff like that. And so that's why everyone moved out there to do Hollywood and stuff like that. And now, like with the water drought, it can't support that large of a population anymore. And so they're like looking at places that might have more stable weather. And in Portland and Seattle, like I think it's one of the lowest years we've ever had in rainfall. And then it's also been like the hottest days ever. Like we were in the hundreds a couple days during the summer, which is abnormal. Like I think the highs usually are like 80 to 90 during the summer out here. So it honestly, weather-wise, has felt a lot like Florida right now. When we first got here and it was winter, it was definitely chillier, but you guys were like experiencing really low temperatures at the time, and I was like, well, this is weird. We're warmer here than it was somewhere where I'm used to it being about like a couple degrees warmer than it is right now in Oregon. So the weather's really nice though. It is really green out here. Like there's so much plant life, it's insane. But it is a lot hotter and a lot drier than I expected. I was definitely in my mind was lots of rain and kind of chilly or cool weather most days. But yeah, global warming. It's fucked up, or climate change, or whatever. The next ice age. I don't. What do they have a name for the opposite of the ice age?
I have no idea.
A meltdown.
I see, but I feel like I feel like they should. They should have a name for it. But you guys are performing with a Portland band soon, which is
September 20th, we'll be performing with a band from Portland called Toxic Holocaust. I believe they've been around since the later 90s. But they're I like them. So like when we got the opportunity to open for them, I was just super stoked and wanted to do it because they're great.
yeah. Is that the biggest band you've opened for, or have you opened for like something that's done like the Continental tour before already?
Probably.
I know we opened up for Mobile Death Camp. It's Todd Evans' band. Todd Evans played in a band called Guar.
Yeah.
And, those guys are from the U.S., but from anybody from out the country, I believe Toxic Holocaust is the first band we opened up for that's outside the U.S.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's toured outside of the US. I'm not sure about that. But I would say by no means are Facebook likes a measure of how popular your band is.
Yeah, because reach
For
and stuff like that.
Yeah, but with just the overall success of Toxic Holocaust, I think they probably are the most popular metal band that we've had the opportunity to open for. And we've had opportunities to kind of try to bid in for. Like I think recently there's a show coming up for a band called Fear Factory, which has been in the area before.
Yeah.
But we didn't pursue that because so at our level in the industry, there are these things that artists, local bands, and refer to as pay-to-play shows, which basically means the way we look at it is you have to sell a certain number of tickets, or you guarantee the promoter the money that you couldn't make by selling tickets.
Yeah.
So a lot of bands have a problem with that, and at first we really were avoiding those because we didn't have the funds to cover those kind of guarantees, and we were trying to do it the old-fashioned way. But it's one of those things. It's a give and take, But for the right promoters, we were willing to do it because we understand both sides. We understand it from a promoter's perspective of them getting burnt by bands who don't want to work for it, and then we understand it from the artist perspective where, some of us feel like it's some not all promoters prey on smaller bands who they know don't have a draw to sell the tickets they need to sell.
Yeah. Well, and this is what is sort of confusing about it to me, not being in the music industry, and because they're called a promoter. Shouldn't the promoter be the one figuring out how to move those tickets?
Yep. Well, they do. So the promoters, they put together these shows, and they generally work independently of venues, and they basically rent out venues or work with the owners of the venue to bring the venue more business by bringing in bands and bringing in patrons who listen to the bands. But their job, is to find the bands, put together the shows, find the local support, and promote it, and basically get as many people as they can to their shows. And I mean, it really, it's everybody's job to get people to the shows. The whole point of of a band is you're supposed to bring people to the shows. If you can't bring people, promoters aren't gonna want you. They're not gonna want to take the risks on you.
Yeah.
You know. So, but yeah, there are promoters who do their best at promoting their own shows, and there's other promoters who really don't do anything.
Yeah.
And those are the kind of shows that they either a get burnt on, or they pass on the burden onto the bands.
Yeah.
But one local promoter down here, he plays for a band called Seven Kingdoms, and they're like a power metal band. They're really cool. Um, I listened to him the other day. Actually, I just followed him on Spotify. But his name's Camden Cruz, and we recently did our first show with him promoting it up in DeLand, Florida, which is about 40 minutes away from us. And we were really happy with that show because we felt like he put the time necessary into his own show, and that kind of bridged the trust between us and him to where we want to work for him. We want to work with him. So
Yeah. Well, that's good that you guys got like into a relationship with a promoter that really uh, did put it out there. I guess it kind of with like Facebook and stuff would be easy to look back and see if promoters were really actually pushing the wares nowadays, but I'm sure a lot of people still get fucked over by that like expectation that that promoter is going to pull in like the people that they can't reach, because obviously like a band has a fairly good idea of how many people they can reach based on like their fan base at their regular venues or whatever, and they might see like that they're performing with someone that they consider someone bigger, and like based on their like experiences seeing that band perform think it's bigger, but it's just at like the wrong venue and they don't have a really good understanding of that, or it's at the wrong day, wrong time or whatever, and the promoter not really or be disingenuous about that and then doesn't
well,
put in the effort to promote.
you can, I mean, we can get a bunch of bands together and find somewhere to play and call ourselves a promoter.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's more to it than that. I mean, a lot of the promoters that we see that don't really have the kind of turnouts they expect. All they do is they, I mean, this is on the bands too, honestly. But they just post it on Facebook. They aren't persistent with the advertising, and most importantly, there are, and bands included. They don't go out to other shows and support their own scene. They don't go out to shows and promote their own shows. They don't go out to shows and network. I mean, again, this is promoters and bands.
Yeah. Yeah, you
So,
definitely like with any art thing or just product placement, I guess, really at the end of the day, if we're getting really capitalistic about it, you have to, you do have to do that network. Like everything is going to take knowing people and like saying,
yeah.
hey, really like this thing that you did. Maybe you'll like this thing. And then it sticks, or you just build a relationship with someone that has access to knowledge and skills that you might not necessarily have, and reach out and collaborate or whatever. But yeah, it really is interesting just how active, though, I guess it is in the local music scene, because that like is such a piece of entertainment on the local level. Like people know who their local bands are and they have like their favorite local venue or whatever, and it's the place that they go and have drinks at even when there's another one performing sometimes and stuff like that. It's just like a cool place to hang out, and these are the people that they're friends with and people that friends of friends are friends with.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is a lot more active just at the local band like scene thing. So it is really cool to hear like about those sort of like stories. It's a really interesting way to look at marketing and things like that. So I got two questions off the top of my head.
Uh-huh.
Do you guys consider yourselves the big dogs of the area?
No.
Who would that be?
Absolutely not. Here's the thing, man. It's one of those things. We've been very fortunate since we started playing shows because I like to think that people like us. I personally, I just been grateful to how much success we've had in our scene and in our area that a lot of bands never get to. We've been together since February of this year, and we've probably had more success in that bit of time than a lot of bands in our area do, you know. And I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's who we are or our music. I would like to think it's a combination of both. But
Yeah. Yeah, it seems like you've received like a lot of good fortune for like the short period of time that you've been around, and that was why I asked like how it had formed originally, because to me it sort of seemed like maybe I wasn't understanding something and it had been around in like a different form, and I was like, but that doesn't really make sense because it seems like Vince plays a really big part in the band, so it seems like that would have had to have happened like fairly soon around the time that he got there. And then I was like, well, maybe because I had heard some of the pieces and I was like, well, they do sound really good. So maybe it is just the skill thing, but then also like
I'm glad someone thinks so.
there's just like something also about the local scene where it is kind of, and I mean, it is on any level, really, honestly, like sort of an image thing and like who you are. And sometimes, like, just being the new person, like, taints that. Like, people are like, whatever, they might be around for a couple of weeks or whatever. And the, like, skill sort of is put aside because there might be a similarly skilled band that's been around a whole lot longer and been a bigger part of the scene for a longer time. And that sort of just makes it. But you guys have seen, like, honestly, from an outsider looking in, pretty good success, like for the short time. And I bet that like feels good to like know that people are really digging on either who you are, the music, or a combination of the two.
Well, honestly, I like to. The biggest thing that I pride ourselves, you know, I pride Arakara on is, and you know, and I hope the other bandmates here pride ourselves on is really how we do business with people. A lot of bands don't get that. They, you know, they aren't professional about things, and that's what it comes down to, is being professional about things and doing good to people that do good to you. And I think that's one of the things that definitely keeps us going, and that once and people want us to come back. You know, mainly promoters and venues, and you know, I would like to think it's our music, but I would like to hope more that it's more about our professionalism and you know, our promise, or our, you know, I guess demeanor, if you will.
Yeah.
Um, but Zach,
Yeah, like again, you know, it professional is that's just one of those things. It's like a lot of bands don't do, and like again, Vince and I take really seriously.
I mean,
Like,
put it this way, man. Like, there are stereotypes out there regarding metal and rock, and you know, but I can say right now we don't adhere to those. I mean, not, you know, everybody in Arakara is pretty much clean and alcohol free. I mean, yeah, Sean and Brandon might have a couple beers, but I'm really happy that they don't, you know, they
they
know that, you know,
they don't get shit faced before the show.
Yeah.
and I
So
think that's where a lot of bands go wrong. And I see a lot of younger bands that are probably a couple years younger than us who are already getting into that mess. They're already getting messed up before they go on, and it just ruins them because they can't focus and do what they do.
And that's
yeah.
another thing too. It's like when you go on stage, you gotta put a good show on. And then after, when you're done putting a good show on, you have to make yourself look good. So you have to like put yourself out there.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I am attributing the little bit of success we do have to the support that we have with a few partners like Nick Wallace over at Eternity Artist Development, our manager, and our producer Andrew Cox at Wicked Studios, and those guys have been really supportive with us, and we're happy to work with them because you know they believe in us for whatever reason. They believe they they believe in us, and I guess that gives us the power to believe in ourselves.
Yeah.
And we just hope that other people are out there are backing us as well as much as we would like to think so.
So with the professionalism thing, um, in the scene, do a lot of like obviously on any local scene, I can like draw the comparison of people getting trashed like that. That's just something that happens, and like it's sort of understandable on some level because some people aren't really even ready to get in front of a crowd of like 10 people and they need to drink, and then before they know it, they've drank like a good bit and then they're fucked up. But do people like trash the set and stuff like down there? Is it like that bad
No,
or
yeah, I've seen that. I mean, honestly, the worst we've seen is just people stumbling around,
yeah.
and I guess not putting the 110 into their performance that I think they needs to happen. I mean, again, we've been pretty lucky and grateful that we don't have to deal with some of those bands, partly because a lot of those bands do have that history that they've made for themselves here.
Yeah.
So
So no throwing up on amps has occurred at any of your shows or anything like that.
no,
Oh.
no,
Okay.
no Kurt Cobaining. Actually, there was one band we played with. Not gonna name any names, but I think the guitarist like basically just was getting a little too into his solo, and he
Oh,
knocked over his own rig. It was weird.
That is
got a
strange.
bunch of snacks, just knocked them over. The mic stand was messed up. It was. We were just like, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. No. Have you guys done any out of city? I don't know how the city works honestly of Orlando, but have you done any like touring or what you would consider like any like little met area touring?
Are you asking if we played any shows outside of like
Yeah.
our area? Yeah, we get invites to play at shows like in Tampa. There's a really great venue down there, which a lot of well-known bands have played there. I think like the band Death has played
Yeah,
there,
Death
and I
from-
think somebody even told me that Slayer played there.
Yeah.
And it's called the Brass Mug in Tampa, and we got some few friends that invite us over there. We have some friends with this other thrash metal band in our scene called Slick Wicked, and those are all great guys, and we've been invited to play there with them. We've been invited to play there with a band called Archangel um, out of Tampa. And we've been real grateful, man, because we're getting to the point where people are inviting us to play shows, and we enjoy it because we like making friends along the way. So, and then we've played played with Slick Wicked again over at their EP release show up in this town called Newport Richey, just above Tampa, at a place called Insomniacs. And aside from that, we've been destroying it here in Orlando, man. We play anywhere and everywhere. And then we've had some shows up in DeLand. We played this year. We played at this local showcase, a local festival. Well, we had the local festival called DeLand Palooza back in April, and that was a cool show.
Yeah, what was the festival like compared to the like your regular set?
It just depends, man. Like, I think we had a lot of people watching us in front because we were on the main stage.
Yeah.
And I think if anything though, it's kind of one of those things where you really have to get the audience's attention at those things because there's 20 other stages and there's 100 other bands.
Yeah, that was definitely one of the festivals. It was like it wasn't just a metal festival. It was like an odd genre. Like there was like a folk band, like this alternative band, and
it was
rock and stuff like that.
So Delano Palooza is basically this huge local showcase of all the music we have in our area. Everything from death metal and black metal to one
hard rock stuff.
One person performing acts, just doing an acoustic set. And then we recently played for Camden Cruise's
metal showcase,
DeLand Metal Showcase, which he puts on frequently to kind of showcase the premier metal bands in the era. And then I think we actually have a festival. We have a festival coming up in Daytona Beach or Deltona for another local showcase with a bunch of genres. So, and then we'll be back up in DeLand in November for DeLand's Rock and Metal Festival, which is actually one of the best known independent festivals in the U.S.
Yeah, so that'll be like a pretty big thing for you guys. Are you really excited for that? Like, is that a big?
I'm excited for any show.
Yeah, Zach. See,
I'm the crazy guy on
Nick.
stage.
Nick gets upset with us sometimes, man, because not so much anymore, but we were at the point where we were just playing everywhere, and Zach will do that. Zach will be like, he'll book us for every weekend at this just in the same area, and that's something we just can't do. I mean, if there's any advice I give to bands who are in our shoes or trying to get into our shoes, um, don't play too much in the same area, else you're not going to have any people come out because they're sick and tired to hear you.
Yeah. So you guys when you say in the same area, do you mean within the same venue? You guys are multiple like weekends in a row doing it? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, mostly either the venue or the area. Like Nick, he won't book us um, in Orlando, in the same month twice. Like for instance, one weekend we might be playing at a venue in Orlando, and the next weekend we might be playing in Sanford, which is next door, and the next weekend, we're going to play in Tampa.
Yeah.
We kind of do that to kind of space ourselves out a little more. So
Give yourself a broader reach. So you guys have been playing pretty like consistently weekends for a while now, yeah. What is because Tampa is like a comparable size to Orlando. What is the difference of playing for the Tampa scene compared to the Orlando scene?
I I'd say it's pretty much the same. I think
There was more people in Tampa, I believe.
I mean, I'm gonna be a little more biased. I think Orlando has a bigger metal scene.
Yeah.
Um, but I think Tampa definitely has a decent metal scene. I mean, like I said, we play a lot of great bands on there who I'm fans of. We're on the same. They're local metal bands, but yeah, I'm a fan. So, but there's I would say more dedicated venues with more frequent locals or regulars, if you will, at those venues in Tampa. Just because I don't think there's so many venues in Tampa compared to Orlando. I think Orlando definitely has more venues. Again, I'm not sure, just because we've played more in Orlando than we do in Tampa. So
So in Orlando, are people more receptive to you because they're more up for the metal genre, or in Tampa because it's such the diehards? Is it like they're more receptive to what you got going on, like in terms of just the energy of the crowd?
I I say both, man. I think every what we've been told is everywhere we go we have a good reception. Um, we have people out in the crowd who are kind of keeping an eye on the crowd, seeing what they're doing, and kind of listening in on what they're saying about us. And everywhere we go, I haven't really heard one negative thing about us. Um, but they're pretty much the same, man. The cool thing about people who go to metal shows and support the scene is it's like a brotherhood with anybody who likes metal, and that's what I love about it. Is it's a dedicated group of people. It's a dedicated demographic. With like say pop today. It's it the people people who I would say like pop music gravitate to the artists that they like because it's what their friends are listening to.
Yeah. What?
Whereas metal, it's like people make friends because they like the same bands that they like. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, with like niche interest, not saying that metal's really like a super niche, but it is like a subsection of um, I guess, entertainment. Anything that's more specialized or more focused, even though like there's still just like such a broad range for metal, um, the people who are going out to that, like when they see someone there, they know that they share like similar interest already just on that basis, and you sort of when you know like a baseline for like the interest of someone, it's easier to make a connection with them, and then you uh, form friendships just starting off around that, and then like with any friendship really you have like that conversation about one thing that you're aware the other person likes, or you yourself just find so interesting that you got to talk about it to someone, and then from there like it's like, oh, you said this in the conversation, I think that's interesting too, and so that's like how. But I think because people who love like niche music just love it so much, like that tribe stays together more or less.
Yeah.
um, Even being pretty clean, straight edge dudes, weird stuff still happens. What's like the weirdest story from just like the band being together? Like what's like some weird inside joke or fucking like thing someone said, you're just like what, and then it like spiraled off into something.
we're pretty boring, dude.
Wait, are you saying when you're saying you're pretty boring? Do you guys sit around and
Well, I
just
mean, when we get together, me, Zach, myself, Sean, and Brandon, we treat each other like brothers, man. I mean, we crack jokes all the time, sometimes vulgar, sometimes non-vulgar, and we basically use any opportunity we can to get a shot in at each other. I mean, I think the only really inside joke that we have is there's no jamming with Ryan. Um, and I'd rather not go into that. Yeah,
okay.
no jamming with Ryan, and then anytime somebody messes up, we usually say it's because Zach didn't get the right flyers.
Did that happen before? Like you put the wrong flyers up or what?
That was with Vince. I think Vince was going home to visit his family one week, and it's like, okay, I'm leaving you in charge to print out these specific flyers out. It's like, okay, so I wrote them down. Okay, I'm going to Staples and print them out. So I go and print them out. I'm like, okay, I got the flyers. And then Vince looks at him and is like, God damn it, Zach, you got the wrong flyers. I'm like, no, I don't. Look. And then I looked and I was like, ah, shit.
Was it like the wrong day? Or
Yeah, it was the wrong. Well, it wasn't.
It was the wrong day because that week when we did the flyers, we had 4 shows that week. So we were printing out different flyers for it. And instead of printing like the 15th show, I printed out the 16th. And I was like, and I was supposed to do the 15th instead of the 16th. So it, I got the wrong flyers. And
I told you it's pretty lame.
But okay, I wouldn't have known you guys played 4 days in a row. Is 4 days in a row the longest you guys have played, or have you played like the 7 days of a week before?
I don't think we did 4 days. I think we had 3 days in a row one time. It was Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I think 2 of them were even at the same place just because there was a mix up in where we thought we were playing, and then Sunday. But yeah, definitely 3 days in a row. Fridays is either Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or Thursday, Friday, Saturday. But yeah, we had a pretty good stretch of shows that week.
Yeah, what was that like going into it, and then what was like coming out of that week or 3 days of playing?
I enjoyed it.
Zach likes it. I love performing anytime I can, man. But sometimes it's just like.
Were you in school at the time?
I think I just finished a semester actually.
Okay, so it wasn't like middle of the semester or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't really the band. See, the band. I mean, I would like to think that it's not stressful, but sometimes it is. The most stressful thing though is loading in, loading out, by any means.
What do you mean loading in and loading out?
Loading in and loading out is like getting your stuff from your car to the stage, do your show, and then right when you're done, get your stuff off stage as fast as you can, so the other band can load in and stuff.
So I mean, that's really the only stressful part, But I had a good time playing those shows, and I just think we played too much.
Yeah, it was oversaturated.
Yeah.
But going into it, were you guys like worried about it, like that being the first time you played that many days in a row, like that you'd still be able to keep the energy up, or?
Honestly,
I'm energetic. So.
Honestly, man, it just depends. It depends on how you perform. I think anytime we go into a show, we definitely give our 110 anytime and every time. And whether we play in front of 5 people, 50 people, or hopefully one day 500 people, we put on the same show and put in the same amount of time and effort into it. But I definitely think you can get burnt out on it. And even like take the drummer for example, like Sean, or any drummer really, they'll tell you it's physically exhausting.
Yeah. When I was talking to Wesley about it, he was talking about how exhausting of an experience it was, and that's like how he gets into his, like if he wants to clear his head, he just wails on the drums for a couple hours or whatever by himself, and it gets him in that zen state. But like at the time when I was talking to him about it, I thought about it also. I was like, you have to use like your whole body to really play like the drums to like get and reach the full like range of all those heads and stuff. You kind of using your back muscles and all that into just moving your body and contorting it to really get in and play them. So yeah, I can imagine like for the drummer and even for like guitarists and stuff like holding the guitar up. But I think something about being sort of in like a cramped almost like position and really just like beating something up like as a drummer is probably really exhausting.
I mean, honestly, I can't complain too much about the physical pain. I mean, I think the worst that's ever happened to me physically is, well, by my own sake, is like my hand my if I don't warm up, my hand will or my wrist will block up and I can't move it.
Yeah.
And then sometimes the meat in my hand will get really cold and it'll that muscle will basically lock up too.
Yeah.
So that or Zach hurts me during the
Well,
like
like
well, like
accidentally like bumps you with the guitar or what?
well like one time we were playing at this venue pretty popular in Sanford, which again is like our neighbor city. We're playing at a place called West End Live, and Zach and I got really close during a section of the song, and we were just playing side by side, and his my hair got caught in the headstock of his guitar, and I'm trying to like gently get it out of his headstock, and
Yeah.
Zach's over here ripping it out.
I see.
So
No, yeah, I can see that being uh, the opposite of a good time.
what is that called? A maybe a bad time?
Yeah,
Not a good time.
potentially something unenjoyable. How, in like terms of you guys doing the writing and practices, has it evolved? Just like starting out when it was just you guys to now, like walk me through that process really and that like evolution you guys went through.
I mean, the whole writing process really,
It's kind of stayed the same. I mean, there are times where it's like we get together and write something. It's usually one of like Vince or I. We usually have something in mind, and we kind of just work it from there. Or sometimes it's like, hey, I have a whole song completed. Let me show you type of thing.
Yeah.
So it all really depends.
I mean, from a writing perspective, I'm really happy because the one thing that makes a band successful is working with the right people, and I've been really grateful with working with Zach because we get along so well. And I mean, there's times where he may be upset with me or maybe upset with him, but by the end of the day, we put that aside because we know that we can trust each other and we can work with each other. So for instance, if I come to Zach with a song idea and he doesn't like it, I can change it or alter it until he likes it, or he can play with it so he likes it, and kind of just go back and forth until we're both satisfied with it.
Yeah.
So,
So you guys do the John and Paul thing where you're sitting in a room just with two guitars or whatever and like playing back and forth or
actually, that never works out for us.
Yeah.
When you're trying to write a song, it just doesn't happen.
I don't think about that.
Yeah.
I'm not the guy who's like, okay, let's write something. I'm more of a guy that just doodles on something, and if I hear something that I like, I'll keep that in mind. And then if I trip on something else that I like, I'll be like, can I put this with this, what I just played earlier? And then I kind of just work it from there.
when you say doodle on something, you mean literally like you're jamming out and then you hear something.
Noodling, yeah.
Noodle with guitar. Like,
Well, I just wanted to ask because I didn't know if maybe you meant like you have that sort of internal ear thing where you're just always like listening to yourself jamming or making music and then you hear like the inspiration, or if it was like more of a tactile process for you.
And sometimes it just depends. It's when I was trying to, I guess, before I started writing music for Arakara, I never wrote music, so I was really concerned about how that process would kind of come with me, and it just happens.
Yeah.
It's,
So it just sort of is like a moment of like, this is cool or this is interesting or whatever.
it's more of like you just trip over it.
Yeah.
Oh, you just like find
Yeah.
it like in the world. Okay.
Yeah, I mean sometimes there's things that are intentionally put in there, but man, most times you just kind of trip over it. You're like, oh, that's cool. So
Um,
I usually jam and record myself.
Yeah.
So like I usually have Pro Tools running 24/7 when I'm jamming. So if I
Yeah.
play something, I know I'm gonna forget it right away. So I just keep going with it, and then I listen back to it, and I'll be like, all right, what was it? What I was doing?
So do you listen over those recordings multiple times, or do you usually just give it a once over, unless you find something that you like in there, and then like listen to it through a couple times?
yeah, I'll pretty much just jam and record myself, and then whenever I'm done, I'll usually just listen to it and just pick out some things that I like, and sometimes I'll build a song like that, and sometimes I'll trip over stuff and just work from there.
Yeah. Vince, so did you not take songwriting, or do you not consider those like pieces in high school? Because I thought you took songwriting in high school or music composition in high school.
Oh yeah. So from a music theory perspective, personally, I feel music theory is very, very important when it comes to learning your instrument, and when it, but when it comes to writing for like, for us, I really don't use it unless I'm writing a lead or unless I'm trying to specifically come up with some kind of melody in some kind of mode that I like, um, to, I guess, emphasize the music, or to spotlight a certain melody. But aside from, that, I mean, honestly, I think theory is just something that you would use. Again, this is strictly the rock and metal. I think of it as something you use when you're purposefully trying to do something. I
So,
think of,
um, sorry to cut you off. Go ahead with what you were saying.
I was just saying that it's just something that it's a tool. It's like you have this toolbox and you get all these tools in it that you can pull from, but sometimes you may not need the tools.
Okay, so you mostly tap on the theory like to tie some ends together when you need to and stuff like that. Like you already have the big pieces and
Yep.
you need like the
That's when I
little,
rely on it. Yeah.
yeah. Okay. How does that compare to you guys doing the lyrics, or do you guys do the lyrics in a similar way where you're like, oh, I said something and that's interesting, or you read something and came across a little bit, or is that a little bit more methodical?
Vince writes all the lyrics, pretty much. I
Yeah.
think I have ideas. I think I had an idea for one song. Like I was like, how about, I kind of helped out with like one song, like ideas and stuff. But when it comes to actual writing lyrics, Vince does it
Yeah,
all.
by no means do I claim to be a lyricist or anything. I'm even willing to admit that our lyrics are nothing special or clever. Honestly, when you listen to them, you'll probably be like, well, But I mean, anyways, it's when I write the lyrics. I actually hate writing lyrics.
Okay.
I, I try to think of things that are clever. Honestly, I try to think of things that are clever as far as the words that are being said. But what I do is when I'm because the riffs come first for guitar because we're naturally guitarists.
Yeah.
Naturally write the riffs first. So I'll come up with a vocal pattern for that song or whatever, and then I will write lyrics on top of that. But honestly, I think words like death and blood should be trademarked or copyrighted for every metal band because I mean that's
Uh,
typical.
yeah.
So, but
Uh, because you guys said that you tap in like to the religious commentary and the political commentary, what are like themes that like you find particularly I don't want to use the word interesting, but I guess I'm gonna have to because I can't think of what I really want to use. Like what are the ones that like are things that you like to attack or explore when you are making those commentary in your music?
um, we I definitely. I mean, I'll take responsibility, but I'm not because I write the lyrics. Obviously, I mean that's no secret. But our lyrics don't attack anybody. They're not meant to attack people. They're meant to kind of maybe get people to think a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, I wouldn't say that there's anybody that we attack specifically, and by all means, if somebody's listening to it and they feel offended, we apologize because that's not what it's meant to do. But I mean, as far as from the religious perspective and the political perspective, with the lyrics, the biggest thing is just the hypocrisy nature of that might be found in those kind of situations. And that's, I guess, because when I'm around lyrics, I don't, I think that you should practice what you preach, you know.
Yeah, so you definitely are like touching on like the cognitive dissonance of someone saying you should act some way and then doing something that's less than moral, or
Absolutely.
people saying to like pull yourself out on the bootstraps and pushing people down at the same time and stuff like that.
Like our song "Holier Than Thou," that song really is just, I mean, again, not everything's completely linked to uh, the real world or completely linked to be taken literal. But the chorus for that one's, is just basically saying, you're claiming to be more holy than myself, yet have you really looked at and into what you're saying, into and what you do? So definitely the hypocrisy is there, you know,
Yeah, I
and
definitely.
I'm definitely that comes from personal experiences with people who are religious that I've encountered in my life, and um, I don't know if you care to hear a story or not.
No, I mean go for it for sure.
I just basically, man, I was just doing some homework at school, and these people came up to me, and I thought they wanted to have a conversation, about who I was, or like just everyday conversation, and they turned it into a conversation about religion, and they told me that my life was, um, I guess I mean, literally what they said was, your life won't amount to anything unless you have this person in your life. And that was after telling them that my dream is to become a doctor. That's after telling them that my dream is to hopefully save someone's life one day, and to give people a better quality life. And even after telling them that, and me telling them that I've dedicated my life to doing that for people, they told me that my life was meaningless unless I didn't have something in my life, which you probably know what I'm talking about. So.
Yeah, did they know? Okay, first off, did this happen within your college years or did this happen within high school years?
No, it's definitely it's actually happened. I think sometime
Happened
last
recently.
yeah recently yeah.
Yeah, and did they know you personally, or was this like the first time that they'd ever like communicated with you?
No, this is the first time they communicated with me, and they were basically some other college age students who were on vacation or spring break who decided to come to Orlando and visit UCF to try to talk to people about their perspectives.
Did they come from a religious school then, or was it
I don't think so. I think they were definitely there with a religious group because
okay?
they told me that they were actually on a mission trip, to be specific.
Yeah,
So, but yeah, it was just kind of strange because it happened to be twice within the same day
with the same people or with different?
with the same group, different people, same
Okay,
group.
and did it go the same way with both of them? So
Yeah.
you definitely say like more than anything, it was like an ideological thing than how these people necessarily like would if they like took the moment to examine it would feel about it. Or do you think that maybe these people are the kind of people that would always come to that conclusion?
I think just because they were the type of people that they are. I mean, by no means am I saying this applies to all people of spiritual or religious nature, but these specific people felt that my life was useless or worthless because I didn't have somebody in my life that they thought I should.
Yeah. Um, I like, and it's weird, like thinking about it from like a philosophical perspective and thinking, well, nihilism and stuff like that say basically life, no matter what you're doing, is useless because I mean, it ends and then within a cycle or so, even the impact that you made isn't really that important, even within art, like that'll fade and stuff like that. It is just strange though. I think once people say though that your life is worthless and this is how you make it worth something, like I can understand people saying, do you think like really that this will lead to happiness or whatever in your own personal opinion? And I mean, they are kind of being dicks for even like bringing that up if they've already talked to you and realized that this is
Yeah.
something that you're like excited about, but like in a sit down and you're like just thinking and talking about life and you're like, well, what does it really all mean in like sort of a posed question, it's a little bit more okay. But once people tell you this is what you have to do to be happy, or even worse than that, not only do you have to do this to be happy, but for you to be of value, to you to have like an impact, and this is the very specific way in which you need to do it, or you're not anything.
And if you know, and you know me, and anybody who does know me, they know that I'm more than happy to talk about beliefs or belief systems in general, and they know that I'm a very respectful person. So by no means did I ever do anything to attack them or anything. You know, I mean, I firmly stood my ground as to what I believe in. But you know, I just even after telling them that I'm dedicating my life to saving other people, they felt that my life was still useless because I didn't believe what they believed.
Yeah, yeah. That whole thing is really conceited because it means that in that particular incident that they believe that their life in just having expressed that to you is like more useful than anything you'll ever
Yeah.
do. And
And don't get me wrong, by no means do I think these people had any ill intent, but I mean, just that's what they told me. You know, I
yeah,
mean, so you can take whatever you want from that, but I mean, I really don't think they had any ill intent. I think they meant the best for me. Um, but I just didn't appreciate that experience just because I don't know how much you know about trying to become a physician, but it's tough. It's hard, and
yeah, definitely. Like the little bit that I do know, it already sounds like quite like the endeavor. Yeah, I think when people are trying to express a message and they're going about it the really wrong way, not only does it make you less likely to be receptive to what they might legitimately have to say, like that might be of value, but it sort of like is going against themselves almost. Like they're making whatever the next person that wants to talk about it in maybe a different way or in a more compassionate or insightful way or a way that maybe makes you look at it from a different perspective. You kind of feel already though because of that experience like mm, uh, it's not really truly like um, honest with itself as a message.
yeah, I can probably agree with that. I mean, again, it's just who you are. You know, I mean, I feel that everybody has the right to believe what they want to believe, and that's okay. But
As long as they don't shove it down your
yeah,
throat,
but
that's
ill intent or not, don't you know? I just I don't appreciate when people tell me that my life is nothing. So I mean, it's nothing because I don't have the same belief system they do. So I mean, that's
Yeah,
the bottom line. That's
yeah,
what I was hurt by. So
yeah. I can definitely understand that. Like that um, just isn't even really treating you like a real person.
yeah, yeah. So I mean, again, they didn't have any ill intent, but I mean, you know, then back to like our lyrical content. It's again, we don't attack anybody. I mean, some people may feel offended just because they may pick up on, I guess, some hints or whatever. But I mean, our stuff is fiction based on experience, I guess. So
Yeah. Would you say that is like literally fiction based, like it is a fictional story based on an experience, or would you say that it's more of like just what's going on internally in your mind and you're sort of putting it to a narrative?
well, as a I guess it just depends on the song. I mean, again, there are songs where I intentionally try to write a story, a fictional story, like with Burial Ground,
Yeah,
where I intentionally write a story. But other songs they come from somewhere inside that maybe subconsciously there and how I feel about things. Like Holier Than Thou is probably one of them. but you know, you have other songs like Mass Master, which is a complete satire of, you know, of that experience. So you have one song, Holier Than Thou, which is a reflection on something, and then you have Mass Master, which is a complete satire of it.
Would you go through the satire that of Mass Master?
So, basically, the gist of Mass Master is kind of like, um, I guess the story is, I don't know if you really have to dig hard if you're listening to the lyrics to pick up on this, but it's basically about this a cult leader who claims to be of a popular religion.
Okay. Wait, so is
But
this Jonestown?
sorry, what is
I
that?
said, is this Jonestown? Is this gonna end up as Jonestown?
I, so I guess if you're so basically it's about an occultist preacher who gets his occult following through his normal day-to-day um, religious endeavors with the general population, you know, like attending mass at a
Okay.
Catholic church or perhaps even attending Sunday, you know, yeah, at um,
Church.
any other church, yeah. So
And then what ends up like occurring with the Mass Master?
he's still out there.
He's just still out there.
Yeah, he's still out there. So
So it does the satire really just touch on like how people can twist
yeah,
things to their own purposes?
yeah. Obviously, it's a little more, I guess, elaborate than that. You know, with it being rooted in the occultist nature, or even you know your theatrical satanic nature, which is are themes that are typical in metal. But yeah, it's satire. It's a joke. Like
Does he so he gets away with it because at the end of the day everyone still feels that he's of a
well,
Judeo-Christian faith, or does he just
no,
get away with it?
they're under his control. He's the
Everyone is.
all the people who follow him. He's the mass master,
Oh,
man.
okay, okay.
So I think the first line is practice what you preach, preacher of the night, illusionist of hell, dreams of angel flight.
Okay.
So from that you can probably gather.
What's going on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So Zach, do you feel a similar way about these topics? Or do you have like your own experiences that you would tap into?
Um, hmm. I don't think so. Like, again, I'm not a vicious person. I don't see, I don't read these lyrics and think that we're attacking somebody. That's not what we're doing. Like,
Yeah.
what Vince, it's not meant to attack somebody. It's what we think type of thing. And like any type of experience, not really. It's just one of those things. It's like, I guess it's just one of those things. It's like people get so,
worked up.
yeah, they kind of get worked up on everything, and you know they just. I feel like they kind of, I don't want to say possessed, but that's like the only word I could think of. Like they're so into like whatever they believe in, and if they don't think that, like if someone doesn't believe in something or they believe in something else, it's like they're garbage or you know they're useless lives or whatever. And honestly, I'm the type of guy I'm a really nice guy, kind of quiet, but
No, he's not.
no. I'm just that guy that's like, it doesn't matter what religion, it doesn't matter about religion or race or whatever like that. I don't judge you on that. I judge on you if you're an asshole. That's
Yeah.
my thing. So if you're an asshole, then you know, fuck off. But if you know, you could be a full blown Christian and you know be the nicest guy ever, and it's like he doesn't have to, you know, be like, oh come on, you should be Christian or you know you should come. you know,
and again,
stuff like that, and you know,
it's not just Christianity. We just use that. I
it's
mean,
just other religions too.
we use that as an example just because we're American, and that's just what we see the majority of.
Yeah, that's what you come into contact with on a like day-to-day basis. I think like probably honestly within a daily basis, you're in some way incentivized to being like converted over. Like someone just in advertising or something is like conveying a Christian message in America. I think that's like a big part of American culture,
Yeah,
just because it's such the majority still.
and
Uh,
that's perfectly okay. I mean, it's to each his own, and um, we respect that, and I think that as just decent human beings, we should all respect each other regardless of our beliefs. So
yeah, I definitely dig that you guys are very much about like respecting people based on like how respectable they present themselves in their like mutual respect and like on a merit based um, system. For Arakara, what like is the vision going forward? Like on the immediate future and a little bit further out, like what are things that you want to occur and directions and things you want to improve on and stuff like that?
well, again, I kind of have a limited time just because I've invested so much in my education, and that's what I'm going to continue with. Again, unless some huge offer comes through with us, but um, from my perspective, I'm just putting in how much ever I can and until that happens and see where it goes. So it's anywhere, balls in anyone's court.
And Zach, for you, with like going forward, same thing or a little bit different?
Um, you know, we're pretty much. I definitely want to hopefully one day make this as a career and stuff like that. You know, it's going to be a little hard because of Vince with his education and Sean with his career, his job and his wife and stuff like that. But you know, hopefully one day this thing will take off and just I don't know. We'll just see what goes on. Right now, we're just working on finishing up the album, and once that's done, we'll probably just do some shows, and maybe when he's on spring break, we'll do like an East Coast tour or something like that.
Yeah.
Um,
We're working on something like
Nick
that.
is currently working on a tour for us, scheduled for sometime in March, in support of the album, and we're hopefully headed all the way up to New York and back.
Oh, that would be really cool. That'd be like a really good opportunity for you, because like the East Coast is like the big metal scene, anyways, more or less. I don't know if anywhere's like bigger than that, but in my mind, that's like kind of the big area for it,
New
more or
York City,
less.
yeah, New
Yeah,
York City's pretty big with music. When it comes to thrash metal, I gotta say probably the biggest place for thrash metal is like San Francisco. I think
probably
that's like
San Francisco. Yeah,
yeah,
I can see
that's
that.
like the birth
So
that's like the birthplace of it right there, I believe. So.
So yeah, things that you see yourselves wanting to improve on, just in maybe networking or in the music, uh, how you present yourself, the show, theatrics, anything like that.
so in the beginning, we were told that not that our performance is bad or anything, but we're just always trying to think of new ways to bring people to shows and want people to come see us. And one of the local uh, promoters, Mr. Ben Gardner over at OrlandoBands.com. We've had a couple conversations with him regarding the current state of bands and their shows, and he was telling us, there's so much out there to entertain yourselves with today. Everything from Xbox and Netflix, and you have to give people a reason to leave their house to come out to a bar or a venue and see your show. You know, so it's definitely something we always want to think about. And in the beginning, I actually wanted to put more theatrics in the show, like I don't know, like scalping a guy or.
So you're gonna go for the Guar type stuff.
As an idea, but it's one of those things that's just maybe it was just a little too much.
Yeah.
So
A little bit too much. But
yeah, it's definitely pyro. In fact, Zach's invested in a fog machine, so we have that now.
Yeah.
Great.
No, fog machines are cool. So, things like lights and projectors are definitely stuff that you are gonna explore, probably.
Yeah, you just gotta get really creative. Most of the venues we play at, they do have their own lights and stuff, and some of them have their own fog machines. Um, but as far as us, I mean, we really don't have the time to hook up a whole light show, you know.
Yeah.
So us, man, we just get out there and we play our music, and we just at best try to
Be a
not only,
presence.
yeah, try to physically, I guess, get into the music ourselves, you know. And there's always the classic metal things from headbanging, and
Yeah.
which is something that I probably should slow down on because
The hair.
it's
Yeah.
not good for you. So
I do too much of it.
yeah, sometimes you
Um,
wake up with really sore necks and you regret it, but I mean it's just a part of it.
do you guys have groupies? Yeah,
No.
groupies. No. So, on a scale of none of you getting a blowjob to all of you getting a blowjob on stage, how likely is it that you're all going to get a blowjob on stage?
No comment.
No.
Oh, so it's happened.
It's
Definitely hasn't happened.
it's not the 80s anymore. You know, that happened with a lot of the glam bands back in the day, but I don't think it's gonna happen.
I think it still happens. I think it happens a lot more like in the hip hop scene nowadays. But
Yeah.
no, I mean even
Performers man are way out there, so I mean it's yeah.
who is
Definitely
the
a sausage fest out there. So
yeah, who is the guy and you may not know because I don't think this guy's actually that big of a deal. The guy who is like whacked out on heroin on stage and he starts cutting himself up, and he's like a fairly famous like thrash metal like vocalist, and then dies in the street like outside of the venue because he gets hit by a bus.
I'm not sure who that is.
Shit. I'm trying to remember. I can't remember.
But you've heard that story before.
I've heard about. I did
Yeah,
hear.
like he just lost his mind on stage and starts like cutting himself up with like a razor blade, and then I think even like shits on stage or something, and then bursts out the door and gets hit by a bus like 4 minutes later.
I can't
It's
be
just
sure to do that.
I can't remember who.
The worst thing we do is we might like get a paper cut on stage or something by accident. It's not even.
wasn't. So what with the scalping? Were you gonna have someone? Were you gonna have like a blow up dog getting scalped? Was someone going to pretend to be scalped? How? When you were imagining it, was it gonna go down?
We wanted a volunteer to put some makeup on and do a scalp covering and stuff like that, and because we have some friends who do some movie makeup and stuff like that. But yeah, we just wanted a volunteer to get up there and maybe it look like he's drunk or something and stumbles on the stage, and then during one of the breakdowns or guitar breaks, just scalp him.
Are you sure you couldn't actually convince Mason to just go through with it? Like, just actually do it? Because I could see Mason going for that, maybe.
No, Mason definitely go for it. I was just I don't think the venues would appreciate the amount of corn syrup.
Just being spilled everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
So, I mean, that's just the fun of it, you know. I mean, it's one of the reasons why I like playing metal and being involved with rock and stuff like that is you know, it's like the same reason you go to a haunted house. You go to a haunted house to get scared and you get a haunt, you know, and you find it fun.
Yeah.
So I think people are attracted to it. And people like watching scary movies.
Yeah. What on that note do you think is your most shocking like line? What is the like grimmest, darkest thing you've brewed up?
Like lyrically, or
Yeah.
Give me a second. I got so much lyric running through my head right now. It's man.
Have babies been trampled? Have virgin sacrifices been made?
No. Give me a second. I got one for you, actually.
Okay.
It's from Burial Ground. It's pretty crazy. I write these lyrics, I can't even remember them myself.
Was it the first paragraph?
No, it's jeez, man.
Ethan.
The line is
I'm trying to remember it.
tomahawk through your brain,
That's very good.
or I think the lines raise your hand, pretend to believe, suffer and your skull will be cleaved, or something like that.
I like that one. I like that one. So you guys don't get super heavy into like the
No.
grimy like nastiness.
No, sometimes, man, that's just a little too much. Again, we like people to be entertained, but we don't like to turn people off on I guess my stuff. Because honestly, for me, I think a lot of stuff gets really, really too gross, and it's purely there for the shock factor.
Yeah.
And again, the only reason why that stuff's in there for us just because it's part of the genre, and obviously it's fiction, and obviously we don't
do that stuff.
obviously we don't, participate or wish anybody for a tomahawk to go through their brain, or it's fiction.
Wait, yeah, I think you just lied. You don't wish General Custer got the tomahawk? You don't wish he got the 40 arrows?
Maybe maybe General Custard, maybe just a really bad Indian burn.
What about Andrew Jackson?
Maybe him too.
Yeah. But no, I get what you're going at, and I like that, like, from my perspective, because I'm not a huge fan of that aspect of metal. Something about it in that context is a little off-putting to me, because there are obviously like music that I like where I enjoyed like references to violence and stuff like that, being a part of it. But something about it in that context I felt like was still just like overdoing it. Maybe it was putting too much emphasis on one aspect of life for me, because it already is such a primal thing. And though having listened to the band a little bit more, I'm not a huge fan of them anymore, because they do this sampling thing which I don't really care for. Liturgy.
Of who?
Liturgy.
Oh.
Yeah, I like his ideas about transcendental black metal or whatever, and like trying to make it less of like a nihilistic thing and more of like a positive, uplifting thing. And he takes a lot brighter lyrics, and then Artwork, which I think is the album that just came out, he really develops like this bright, epic fantasy world, but it still has that black metal like instrumentation going on in it. Every time there's like a battle or an action scene, he's really tapping into those primal emotions. And I think that's really cool, and I think that you guys try and make it at least approachable and acceptable, and not like an off-putting thing, as a really cool approach to designing your image as like thrash, which it kind of means to like tear shit up and stuff like that.
Well, it's just one of those things, man, where it's, I have to be careful because of my potential career choice as to, what I have to take responsibility for. But, whatever you do, whatever you write musically, people aren't always going to agree with it, whether it's lyrically or musically. But we definitely like to put more emphasis, and I think you'll be able to hear it. It's, we put more emphasis on the music than we do the lyrics.
Yeah.
And I guess I wish I was more of a suave, creative lyricist, and maybe I'll get better, or maybe somebody in the band can write better lyrics than me. But I remember going back, and we were trying to find lyrics for these songs. Zach had a bunch of lyrics already written from some songs.
Yeah.
And I took the notebook and basically hit him on the top of the head with it, because he writes lyrics like a 14-year-old scene kid or emo kid or whatever. So too much angst, if you will.
Too much angst in it for you.
Yeah.
So you said hopefully in regards to going to physician school and just being like your friend. sort of want to know what that's about. Like, is it something that is kind of like shaky right now, or is it just like because of the potential of you guys blowing up?
Well, again, I've made the decision in my life to dedicate it to saving people's lives and giving them a better quality of life. I've had a lot of opportunities in my life, working with people in the field, um, and I can't take those kind of things for granted. I've had a lot of support from my parents financially, and them being there for me, and um, I've got a lot invested. So I mean, definitely being a physician is my top priority right now, and becoming a doctor is something that I need to do to have a fulfilling life. But that's not to say, if there's an offer on the table for my music, I would be lying if I said I wouldn't consider that as an option for the rest of my life either.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that's the day-to-day battle I fight, and with what I'm doing. I mean, there's no question. I'm definitely priority is becoming a physician, man.
yeah. Do any themes, ideas, or emotions associated with your drive to be a physician make its way into the music, or are they kind of separate entities?
No, I try to keep it much separately as I can, man, because I've talked with doctors before, and they say that you have to have something in your life that just is only for you and makes you happy, and that's what music is to me. Um, and I think it's important that everybody kind of has that for them, whether it's some kind of hobby to keep them kind of isolated from their job. And I'm not saying that being a physician I guess, made me have some kind of disdain or for having that job. Um, but I would be lying if I said that I don't. I mean, I'm proud that my music makes me feel the way I do, and I'm happy that it makes other people feel happy when they listen to it, and
Yeah.
makes and when I entertain people. So
Yeah, because I was going to ask, do you think maybe the reason doctors have said that is because, like, the stress value associated with it, or the fact that most people have jobs that they're not entirely happy with? Because there's like the two approaches to it that, like, you're doing this thing for survival or whatever, and it is to get through. And then there's the people who are like artists and stuff who also have the opinion that even if it's a job that they are not like huge fans of, like everything they take into and influence like their great work or whatever, their transformation process.
well, it's no secret that anybody really, a large part of Americans don't like the job that they have. Um, and honestly, half of the physicians I've talked to said they absolutely hate their jobs, and that if they could go back now, they wouldn't do it. And now here's the thing though, they can never tell me why. They always had their own personal reasons why they wouldn't, but they wouldn't tell me because I would ask them. And so it's just one of those things, man, where I think I obviously I'm not a doctor, obviously I'm not a physician by any, so I wouldn't know what that life is like. I can only comment on what I've seen after observing or shadowing physicians and ask them about their experiences as doctors. But I can definitely say that there is a lot of stress. Physicians are under a lot of pressure, under a lot of stress because that's where the buck stops. When it comes to somebody's life.
Yeah, yeah, I can definitely uh, see that it, like, from an outside perspective, and understand how it could be just like a weight that you have to carry at sometimes, because I mean it is a high intensity job and it has a lot of responsibility, and there's the respect and stuff associated with it. Um,
And don't get me wrong, there's a lot of people who go into that field for the money, or because of their birthright, because their parents were a doctor and their grandparents were a doctor or whatever. And I'm not trying to say that I'm any different as far as my experiences, but I would tell you, if it was about the money, um, I can care less, to be honest with you.
yeah, the money isn't a huge thing to you outside of it being a paying job, really. That like
Put
would
it this way, man. Someone who goes to medical school, they spend 100 to 200 grand in loans, and they fight those loans for the rest of their life.
yeah,
And that's going to be me. And but so I mean, I've had experiences, I mean, even Gabe, with our friend Jacob passing away, that there are certain experiences that mold you into the person you are. And I think that was one of the experiences that really pushed me to want to become somebody who dedicates their life to saving other people. So,
Yeah, yeah, I think you probably, in like that specific way, have been driven like most in a like restorative, like healing way. And I know like everyone is affected in like their own unique ways. And like looking back at it from my perspective, the big thing that it showed me is just how important people are, how like
yep.
getting out there and communicating and making these connections is like the greatest, grandest thing that you can do, because it will always affect you. Like Jacob, um, it has always been a part of me since then. And even like when we were friends and he was alive, I mean, he was a part of me. It just wasn't as obvious because there was the physical, like, aspect of Jacob still there too. And like, you don't necessarily notice the internalized version of someone when you see him on a face to face value. But definitely, like, there is a piece of me that has been changed as a result of knowing that person, and any person that extends to, like, everyone shapes and molds you in a way. And like one of the things that really pushes me to doing like the podcast and like the videos and stuff like that, and especially the podcast, is just reaching out and talking to people and just getting people's stories out there so other people can hear them, so people can talk about them on like this level of like really engaging and having a conversation. And then like in terms of career choice, when I think about like the marketing pursuit and stuff like that, there's a lot of, I guess, empathy that I feel as a result of having had like those experiences and being really aware of the value of them at like a younger age. Um, because usually, like, people, I mean, people do have like their parents die and stuff when they're at a young age, and like those people have a similar experience, but usually it isn't someone that's like their peer for most people. Um, so that sort of interconnectivity and the importance of people.
Yeah, and at that point, man, and when I really started thinking about me becoming that person to play that role in somebody's life, um, it for the longest time, man, I didn't want to be a doctor. I wanted to be a music educator. I wanted to educate kids about music. And I mean, mom and dad was always pushing me, or really mom. She was pushing me to become a doctor, and I didn't want to because I didn't feel that calling yet. And then, fortunately and unfortunately, and fortunately again, I think I've heard the calling of medicine, and that's what I want to do, primarily because of the experiences I've had, whether it was with Jacob's passing or watching my mom go through her having her troubles with her cancer, and so I mean, again, we're the products of our experiences, and uh, I can say right now that the money's I can care less about the money. I feel like if I didn't become a doctor, or, I feel like I'd be letting a lot of people down. I'd feel a lot of guilt, um, and I think it might be irrational. It's an irrational thought, but I would be letting down my patients in the future who I could have saved, and hopefully given them a better quality of life.
Yeah, yeah, I can see that. We're about nearing time. Are there any last points that you want to make? Any things you want to ask, say?
No, thank you so much for having us, man.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was a really good experience having you guys on. A lot of fun. I'm excited to see like the new album. It's going to be called Burial Ground, most likely.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, excited to see that. Hope you guys do get to do that tour, because that'll be like a really cool experience to have. Like, that'll be something you look back on forever. Like, that was the first tour, or that was the tour, or however it goes down. Like, that'll be a
Yeah,
big thing.
yeah, we're super excited, man.
Yeah, definitely. After the video, send me. links to the album, and I have the Facebook page link. So if it is all on there, I can track it down. And any other way that you might want people listening to reach out to you
Be
guys.
just be on the lookout for the album when we finish it. Should be done shortly. Um, no official release date, and if somebody wants to get a feel of what we're about, check on our Facebook, check on our YouTube channel, check us out on Reverb Nation, check us out on Bandcamp. But all that's pretty much on our Facebook page.
Yeah.
So come
Okay.
to us.
Yep. Well, thank you guys so much for being on. Really
Thank you.
enjoyed it. Was a good experience. Got to learn like a whole lot of stuff about like the thrash metal scene and stuff like that, and just who you guys are as a band. And I think people who haven't really gotten to make that connection with you guys, if they hear this, are gonna like pick up on just how like cool and like you're saying professional you guys are about things.
Yeah.
Well, see you all later. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye, buddy.